Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mr. Hescox back talking to my physical science kids. We are now ready to start chapter 7. This is the chapter on chemical reactions and all the different types of chemical reactions. First, let's talk about what do you think of when you hear the word chemical reaction? Take a couple seconds, pause the video, and see what you can come up with. Well, a lot of students over the years have told me they think of chemical reactions, you think of little guys in white trench coats, you think of beakers, you think of fire. I always have a boy that says, I think of explosions, um, bubbling chemicals, some type of those types of things. But there's all sorts of chemical reactions. Sometimes you think about them that are chemical reactions that are more common, and sometimes there's ones out there that we don't talk about. So let's talk about reactions. A chemical reaction is a chance where the elements in a compound of more than one type of substance rearrange. And this happens, they react because of the electrons in their valence shell. All of these reactions cause different things to happen. So our video here is going to talk about reactions and how you take bonds, break those bonds, and make new bonds. For that to happen, those particles must collide in some way, shape, or form. Because we're breaking bonds and making new bonds, these are going to make chemical changes. A chemical change is one that changes the final substance. You know, the perfect example of a chemical change, you mix all of your stuff into the pot and then you bake it and you get cookies. You know, your flour, your sugar, your butter, chocolate chips, of course. And then when you bake it, the reaction occurs with baking soda or baking powder. I'm not a real good cook. Um, and then it reacts into form your cookies. A physical change is one that doesn't change the actual substance, like ice melting. It's still water. You can have solid water. You can have, like we have outside today, lots of snow, but that is going to give you the same original substance. We don't change that substance. But on the other hand, so if we take that water, H2O, and I run electricity through it, it will actually break down into hydrogen and oxygen. Let's play a little review. We're going to say some things here, and you're going to determine is that a physical change or a chemical change. Now, this is a review from a past chapter. So, I know that in class we would actually hold up fingers, but baking a cake, physical or chemical? That is chemical. Rust on a bike. Well, when your spokes rust because you leave it out, that is chemical because you cannot. Ice melting. Well, it's still water, so that one is physical. Pennies tarnishing. Do you ever notice how pennies turn green? That is the copper actually reacting with the air, and that is a chemical change. Sugar dissolving. Well, the sugar is still there. You know, you can taste it in the liquid. So that is a physical change. And then frost on a windshield, well, that happens quite a bit on cold mornings like today. That frost on a windshield is actually the water vapor condensing, but it is still water, so that one is a physical change. So let's talk a little bit more about reactions and some of the traits of a reaction. So there are two sides of any reaction, and to start that, I'm going to go ahead and draw out a reaction. So here's a real common one. This is hydrogen gas that we're going to react with oxygen gas. There's always an arrow, and that means it yields. And in this case, it's going to yield water. Now, in this case, it's not balanced, but everything that on the left-hand side, these are called reactants. And then the arrow always points to the products. Now there can be one product or there can be many products. So if we look here, there's methane gas reacted to oxygen. This is actually a burning or a combustion reaction. So these are the reactants. And the arrow always points to the products. So let's talk about some evidence of chemical reactions. The first evidence of a chemical reaction is you have a definite color change in the actual substance. So the perfect example of that is, I left my bike out one time when I was a kid and all of the wire spokes started to rust. Rust is not the same as the steel that the bike was made out of. Precipitate is when you mix two liquids together, and somehow those two liquids have usually it's called a double replacement reaction, which we'll get to here tomorrow. That liquid will react. And in the reaction, there is this solid compound created and it falls out of solution. And the word precipitate literally means to fall out of solution. Like if you have a really busy stream and it's full of mud, when the water slows, the mud will fall out. Or precipitate out means to fall out of the solution. A real common one, the formation of gas. Usually you'll see bubbles or something reacting. You can see the bubbles going. I've done some stuff in class for you guys like that. And oftentimes you'll see a temperature change. Most of the temperature changes are going to be some sort of heat, like a fire or just warming of the substance. But in some cases, you actually can cause the temperature to decrease as well.